I had ticked off all the boxes on the manual that we're given. And I'm sitting there in my house and I'm like, oh no, the feeling didn't go away, Kian. The feeling was still there. But I was sitting there feeling like there has to be more. There has to be more than that. I think that there isn't really a question as to whether there's intelligent life outside of Earth. I mean, even just kind of logically, like to imagine that with universe upon universe upon universe, the infinite nature, that we would be the only planet with intelligent life seems a bit illogical to me. I think of myself as kind of a cosmic doula. Doulas help people through birth and death, but there's this whole time between them, right? Like your life. And sometimes what we just need is someone who's like, trust me, I've done it. I've jumped off a similar cliff. You don't die. And actually the hand of God comes and catches you, and it's going to be more miraculous than you could ever imagine.
Welcome to another episode of Humankinder. I don't know about you, but I've been slightly terrified, slightly cynical, massively curious about the whole area of soul and particularly past lives. My guest today is Maureen McGonegle, who's a quantum hypnosis practitioner and a wayfinder life coach, which means she guides people through past life soul regressions, through listening to their deep intuition, and really starting to expand their understanding of what it means to be a human being and what it means to be a soul incarnated in this human experience. This is a mind-bending conversation that really challenged a lot of my beliefs. And through working with Maureen myself, I have had experiences which I share in this podcast of past life, which I am still trying to understand and wrap my head around. And that's one thing I loved about Maureen. She is on this journey the same way as all the rest of us are. After a very successful on the outside corporate career, something inside her just screamed no. And through a series of jumping off cliffs, she has found herself in this position where she is now helping others to do the same. Maureen is very vulnerable in this conversation. She shares some of her own emerging skills and talents, and in particular, her own soul language, which was a new concept for me and a new experience for me to see someone express in this way. Maureen feels really connected to our intergalactic heritage and talks here about the possibility of other beings in other dimensions, in other parts of the universe, and how this experience that we are having right now is far vaster, far more interesting, far more powerful than we could ever even imagine. Let's go. There's a way of starting. I'm going to pull a few cards and then share.
Yeah, so usually before my sessions, I pull a few cards that give me some guidance of like some themes that might come up, or maybe some things that might be unseen. So it's always fun because I'm always interested in what's not on the surface. And then I'm really connected to our galactic heritage. So, yeah, I connect with the Arcturians, with the Pleiadians, more recently the Syrians. And so we got one Pleiadian card, which is about sharing cultural ideals, which made me laugh because I feel like that's a lot of what we were doing when we caught up yesterday. Yeah, and then I was just reading about, I know some of the cards really well, and there's 108 in this deck, so there's a lot. So I'm just feeling into, yeah, okay. I might just leave them here if that's okay, because they might come up while we're talking. So there's courageousness, sharing cultural ideals, and desperation, which would be, that's from the era for the Zeta Reticuli, so the little gray aliens, when they kind of were in their fragmentation, when they collected their karma, their trauma. Each civilization goes through these. So they came to a point of desperation because they could no longer procreate. That's when they started abducting humans. Whoops. But we consented to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting, because when you shared first on the sharing cultural ideals, for me, in terms of the purpose that I feel called to and what this podcast is about, is actually about exploring what is possible for humankind.
Yeah.
And that's what humankinder is. It's really that question of like, what is possible for this human experience? What is going on here? Can we understand the mysteries of the universe, the mysteries of ourselves, and a nod to what you said earlier, start to tune into what's the invisible inner layer that's going on underneath the surface all the time, and start to extract from that and connect to that a little bit more. So I completely resonate with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the Pleiadians are like our closest cousins. And so we feel so connected to them. And I sense they're here right now in this conversation. So they're going to help guide us.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So for somebody who has had no exposure to the galactic heritage, and it's coming into this completely from the perspective of, that sounds to me like tin hat or conspiracy, or I don't know what's going on with all this sort of stuff and UFOs and that's all crazy and all these sort of things. How would you start to paint the picture of what this galactic heritage is, and even interested in how you came across some of these ties as well?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm at a stage now where it's not a question of if it's true. But I had to get there, obviously. And to me, I think that with the disclosure that's happened, there isn't really a question as to whether there's intelligent life outside of Earth. I mean, even just kind of logically, like to imagine that with universe upon universe upon universe, the infinite nature, that we would be the only planet with intelligent life seems a bit illogical to me. But where I really connected in was actually Graham Hancock's Netflix series, Ancient Apocalypse. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you?
Seen a little part. Yeah.
So when we think about what archaeologists have told us about the timeline of humanity, they've basically disproven it. But there's a lot of ego built up in like preserving what academics tell you has happened, right? And so that kind of opened the door for me to go, okay, there's something here. There's all these different cultures that have these similar stories of these beings that have come and helped like humans with lots of knowledge. And there's this big cataclysm, a flood that's in all these different cultures. It's like, hey, there's something here. So then I started following the clues on what I call now this cosmic scavenger hunt. And it took me to Dr. Stephen Greer's work. Have you heard of him? So he does Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is probably his most well-known work. It's about humans actually, rather than, alien contact happening to us, it's about humans actually being the ones who are making the contact, who are going out and trying to make the contact. So that took me off down another little path, and I had some really strange experiences in Hawaii and in Peru last year. And I started listening to a lot of channeled texts. So channeling is what really started to get me into like, okay, we're tapped into some higher source of information. It's coming from somewhere. And so for me, I believe that we are all connected to one source, whatever you want to call it, the one source, God, whatever. So that is a premise that's important in this, right? Like we are all created of the same thing. And when that one source decided that when it's all intact, it can't actually experience itself, it decided that it wanted to experience itself. And so it fragmented into all these pieces. And that's what the galactic heritage is. So these galactic heritage cards trace the history of what happened when Source came into physical form for the first time, and all of the different civilizations that have been built up throughout time and what we can learn archetypally from them. And some of them actually have been here physically on Earth. So the Syrians and the Pleiadians specifically were really involved during the Lemurian era. So like 13,000 to 26,000 years ago. And they were here like walking with humans and helping with the pyramids. And, you know, a lot of the gods that we hear about were probably actually aliens, is what I've come to believe. This is actually kind of wild to talk about in this context because I kind of keep it close and I haven't really fully come out and shared these, like my beliefs and my understandings. So let me pause for a second and feel into what I want to share. It's such a part of my life now that it's hard to kind of explain. Basically, my understanding is that we are having this human experience, but we are much more than just this human body, even this human experience. So our souls have aspects of us that are having other lifetimes. You know, this is how we met, through exploring other lifetimes. So those lifetimes didn't all happen here on Earth, essentially. And so I've connected in with aspects of myself that have been alive as part of the Arcturian Light Collective, because they're not actually in physical form. So some of, you know, when Source fragmented, it's like, okay, I want to have this experience. I want to have a light form experience. I want to have a physical form experience. I want to be a rock. You know, I want to be all the different things. So yeah, that's kind of what we can learn, though, from the Pleiadians, for instance, is each society has had kind of one core wound, a main core wound that has taken them into the most polarization. So for the Pleiadians, they were reacting to some really significant control that they'd seen in other parts of the galaxy. And they created a love and light world, which sounds pretty good sometimes. I don't know about you.
Sounds great. Sounds exactly what we're trying to do here.
So let's learn from the Pleiadians, though, because the downside of love and light is they totally ignored all of the shadow. The point where they got sick, it created this plague within their society. And they had to go and look in the shadows to understand why. And so then that was part of their healing path. And I think that's a lot of what we have to learn as humans as well. So they're trying to heal that through us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And if I could just join you in that, sorry, is it?
Yep, all good.
If I could join you in that space, because I have had a number of experiences now which has shown me beyond doubt that we are not limited to this body mind.
Yeah.
And whether that's true, just very much experientially looking at what is my consciousness? Where is my awareness? Where could it be located? Where is this sense of I? Like a very much Advaita Vedanta direct path meditation, which really gets you to investigate, is this I that I assume myself to be solid? And whether that's through exploring the body or it's exploring your experience, inner experience, looking for the seat of the I. And there are many, many people who are just going and waking up to this. And so then once you have that initial experience of saying, wow, all of the things that have happened to Cian over Cian's life are happening to Cian, and this anger has been here 100 times and 1,000 times, and then there was this happening and that happening, but the space in which that was happening, that which was experiencing that, never changed and is changeless and formless and beyond. And so once you have that experience, it unlocks things in a way where you go, well, now what's possible? because the old paradigm is very much limited to that idea, and anything that comes up has to be tested against that idea.
Yeah.
But once you unlock that and you start to experience that and can experience that at will on a daily basis, and then you start to explore things like psychedelics and have experiences that bring you into realms of consciousness that it's very clear that you're not limited to this body-mind. And then through meditation can have those experiences, or holotropic breath work, or any of these experiences, whether it's ecstatic dance or all of these things, they're bringing you into different states. And soon you go, well, suddenly now everything's back on the table. And that's why when I hear you speak about different beings, different planets, different solar systems, to me, it makes a whole lot of sense, because the likelihood that that's not the case, given what I've experienced and given some of the things I've read and people I've talked to, seems so small. It seems so small to imagine that we could be in a random universe which we just have somehow been slapped together, and just for like some minuscule, beyond minuscule chance, we have come here and then we have one life and we die. That actually seems like the crazy idea.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It does. When you see it that way, you're like, it's actually crazy to imagine. Yeah.
It's crazy to imagine. And I grew up with my mum, such an interesting person. She's a nurse, and in that nursing capacity, in the Western medical model, very much cause and effect and medicine. And she started to explore things like Reiki and energy healing. And with the Reiki and energy healing, she started to get into the whole area of angels and guardian angels and angel cards, and starting to explore, as you said, those, what could some of the beings in higher dimensions than us be doing and be up to?
Yeah.
And is there a potential relationship there? And was exploring that, and had a number of profound experiences and healing experiences in that regard, and then works with people on that level. But then she also started to explore the shamanistic path and go into the indigenous tribe and into the really much what you described, this healing the wounds of the community, the human community, through like the deep parts of our soul and the darkest, the things that root us down into the ground. And she did a lot of work doing what she calls soul retrievals,
Yep.
which in modern psychotherapy we call healing trauma. But the idea in the indigenous way of thinking is that bits of our soul get fragmented and pulled away,
Yeah.
and we go to bring them home,
Yeah.
right? And we go to bring them home. And so she had this incredible combination of earth with the shamanism, and then sky with the angel. And so she opened me to this in ways that I wasn't even aware of at the time, because I grew up very much like, I rejected my Presbyterian / Catholic upbringing. The church made no sense to me. This idea of God made no sense to me. I'm just going to go, and I'm going to say I'm not atheist, but I would just being secular, just being like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah, I called myself agnostic for a
Yeah.
long time because I didn't feel strongly enough that I was atheist, but I didn't believe in any of the organized religions. Yeah.
Yeah, and you derive a sense of pride and satisfaction from that, like you've got it figured out. And then other people who are saying things that seem fluffy or weird or woolly, you just instantly reject. And I think that's something that can be very dangerous as well for your development. So yeah, I'm fascinated to hear more about this sort of structure and what your experiences have hinted to you or suggested to you about the nature of reality and our place or our purpose within this reality that we're in right now.
Okay. First, I need to let my soul language come through because I feel it. Like I feel the energy bubbling up and my jaw starts chattering. And so I just actually need to let it flow. And then I'm going to have you ask me that question again. But this is actually new for me, honoring what I need. So we're going to go for it. amazing how much that calls me to be present.
Incredible. And perhaps before we answer the other question, I'd be curious to know more about how that has come true for you and what that is. And
Yeah. Well,
see,
I'm still discovering it, honestly, Can. What was just coming through right then is how long I've suppressed and masked in a lot of ways, right? Like, and that's essentially what it is. So I describe it as soul language. Other people will call it light language. I had heard about light language, but the skeptic in me, I'm still a skeptic about things. It seemed performative to me. And when it came through for me, it wasn't something I was seeking. It came through, I was working. It's so funny. Okay. Like, this is how what I call the cosmic scavenger hunt works. In ayahuasca ceremony last year, we sang a lot and played instruments. And I was like, I love to sing. I forgot how much I loved to sing. But as a very young girl, I was told to be quiet. And you're not good at singing, so stop, right? It's like, but that's not what it's about. Yeah. It's resonating on some level.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This resonates with pretty much everyone who's told you're never going to make it professionally, so just zip
Stop. This is about expression. It's not about that. So the seed was planted, and I was like, okay, I want to find a way to uncover that again. But it kind of germinated for about a year. And then through all these clues, I found this woman. So somebody posted about her, and she's local here on the Central Coast. And she does vocal freedom classes. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sing. And I'm also like, I'm wanting to share more, right? So like sometimes my voice shakes when I'm sharing, and that's all the suppressed expression. That's what I'm noticing. It's like, okay, it's still like, I probably could have gone on for 30 minutes with the soul language to like let it out, and I might have to let more like builds up. So I'm going to do it for a second. We're safe to express. Oh. Amazing the amount of energy that's like rushing through my body right now. It needs somewhere to go. And that's been true for I don't know how long, and I've just been pushing it down. So this is a totally new experience to actually allow it to come up and allow other people to see that. Because I was even thinking like, oh, I'll just say I need to use the bathroom and I'll go and shake it out in there. But back to how it came, it was very similar to this. So I'd been going to see this woman for 3 or 4 weeks, and we hadn't sung yet, really. That's not what it felt like it was about. It was like this soul recognition. When she and I met, it was just like, boom. And this particular week, I was in deep grief. Deep, deep grief. I had found out that my ex-partner had repartnered. And it was something that I was like bracing myself for. And it hit me. And it tapped into some deep, deep grief from my childhood when my dad left. And he repartnered really quickly. And that created this kind of like, he's there, but he's not. I can't get to him. And so I was in like the deep processing of this grief. And I was like, I don't even want to go to my class. But something said, just go. And so I sat there with her like this. I shared a bit of what was happening. And she said, you know what? I'm going to take you into my treatment room, because she's magical. She has all these tuning forks, and she's like, oh, use my pendulum and we'll see what's going on with your chakras. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, let's do it. It's amazing how much my jaw is shaking. There's been so much coming up for me around expression. So this is like all related to it. Ugh. So she's doing the tuning forks to bring my chakras back into alignment. And then she starts speaking a language. First, I'm like, is she casting spells?
Yeah.
And I've heard of light language, but
Yeah.
the way she was doing it, it was something different.
Yeah.
Trying to come back into center. So what's coming up is actually a deep witch wound. There's a part of me that's keep trying to tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the experience recently where I feel a lot of my traumatic wounds in my heart, in the heart chakra. It feels like someone has got a cold hand and it's on my heart and will squeeze it. And I recently picked up this exercise from Dr. Sue Morton, which was when you have a certain sensation in the body that's continuous, what you can do is as you go in and you start to listen, you start to express. Once you've started expressed from that area, you can say, now where else in my body needs some love, needs some attention that's blocked to allow my full energy to flow?
Mm-hmm.
And immediately the sensation went from my heart and it went straight up into my throat. And it was like someone had me like this and they had me around the neck. And the intuitive sense that came in was like, you're not speaking what's true. And for years and years and years, like as long as I can remember, I have said what other people wanted to hear. As I grew up in an environment where if my parents or if an authority figure was angry, then that dictated my entire world. And I think that's the way we are as kids. We have this need for attachment above all else. And then we have this competing need for authenticity to express ourselves. But of course, the attachment is more important. So
I'll abandon.
Parts of our psyche, our unconscious mind will just go, right, whatever I need to do to shut down that authenticity in order to go back to attachment, I will do. And I'll use any emotion. So a lot of the emotions get used are, I'll use shame, I'll use guilt, I'll use fear. And the fear comes up and it represses that need to express. Maybe it's anger. Maybe you're like, you know what? Like, F you, like, fuck you, get out of here. Like, do you know what I mean? Don't tell me what to do, but like, you're like, I can't say that. So it's like, it shuts you down and you just get so much trapped energy here from not saying what's really true for you.
Yeah.
And especially, you don't have the words or the understanding to articulate the grief that's underneath being shut down in that way or being subject to such raw emotion and having nothing to do. And so one example that I'd have behavioral hacks where if I heard my dad coming through the door, I would jump up and I'd immediately start to tidy something. I'd be like, well, if I'm tidying something, that's a good thing. And there's no way I'm going to get in trouble as long as I'm tidying. But if I'm lying on the couch, then whatever's going on for him is going to come straight at me. Like, what are you doing? Like, get and do this. And so you develop all these things. And that part of ourselves I've recently heard called the loyal soldier, right? And it's a beautiful metaphor for it because, and it comes from when, I think it was World War II, whenever there was Japanese soldiers in the war and they got marooned on these islands from parachuting in or from being in fleets. And like 20 years later, when the war was over, they found them again. And they'd been on these islands, like in the war for like 20 years, like still kind of like sneaking around and surviving. And so this loyal soldier was still battling. And so when they brought them home then to Japan, the way that they helped them to heal was that they welcomed them home. They said, I'm so grateful for everything you've done. I'm so grateful for all of what has happened. And the war is over. You can let go. Like, the war is over. And so I've been doing this practice where there's characters inside and there's the loyal soldier and you can visualize that. And then there's the wounded child that the loyal soldier's there to protect. And then there's the wild child that's wanting to express. And so these three are in this relationship where the wild child's been caged the wounded child is being protected by the loyal soldier, so it can't actually grow. And the loyal soldier's there, like on the front line, like doing everything it can to protect. And then bringing in this new presence, which is now the nurturing parent, which is what didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so welcoming the loyal soldier home, giving the wounded child the awareness and the love and the acceptance that it needed, and then letting the wild child out to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to just like express this? Do you want to go do something? Do you want to go jump in the ocean?
Do you want to sing?
Do you want to sing? Yeah. Do you want to dance? Like I went to another great form of expression of trauma is using the body. And I went to the 5 Rhythms recently with Gina Chick, and she showed us this method of just turning the eye inward, like the inner eye, and then starting to sense what's happening. And then, so let's say you say, well, I look like an idiot. I feel like an idiot. What does that look like? What is it like this? Is it like, don't look at me, don't look at me. And like use repetitive movements that you're just fascinated by. So really focus inward and maybe tune to the hands and just truth tell with the body. Let it out. And let it out. It's like, oh, I look like an idiot. I look like an idiot. Or, I want to be impressive. I want to be impressive. And you just move and you move. And like after a while of doing this, suddenly this like 340,000 years of being a human dancing around fires, this body intelligence just takes over and stuff starts to come out. And I'm in the corner and I'm angry. And I'm like, I fucking hate you. I hate you. I hate you. And I'm punching. And all this anger's coming out from this wounded child, which I didn't know that was coming in. And then when you look at all of the research around trauma and then how animals deal with trauma, you will see that when, let's say an antelope will freeze and it won't want to be eaten by a lion, it'll freeze and freeze and freeze. Yeah. And then like the leopard's like dragging it back to the tree and it's frozen. And then the leopard like takes its mouth off to go and like take the next move, and then suddenly, boom, it's up again and it's running. But of course, it has this freeze response to get rid of. And so when it gets back to the herd, they'll shake. Yeah. And they'll shake and they'll shake and they'll shake and they'll shake and they'll just shake it all out.
Yes.
Right?
That's exactly what's happening with my jaw.
Yeah. And there's so many various ways to do this. And for me, this is one of the key skills that every human being needs to find their way of expressing those buried traumas that are being held by the body. Because without that, any progression towards the light, to the ascendant path, will be stunted. And also you'll get there and you'll be there, and then things will start to pull you down, or other psychologically sort of perverted behaviors will come out and you might spiritually bypass them. And so this melding of the two paths.
That's exactly what happened with the Pleiadians. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because you have to integrate those parts of yourself. And that's why this experience of actually allowing myself to be seen, processing my trauma real time in front of someone who I don't know very well, in front of cameras is, it's quite vulnerable.
And courageous.
Thank you. Yeah, if that's the other one, courageousness. Yeah. I do think it's important for us to see it. I think it's important because we don't have many examples of this in Western culture. We don't have the rites of passage, that we were talking about. We don't have the elders there to show us or to say, because I definitely didn't have anyone safe there when these scary things were happening to me as a kid. So yeah, it just all got trapped. And so just going back to how the soul language came through, she's doing the tuning forks and she's speaking her language. And she says to me, darling, do you know your light language? And my conscious mind goes, what? No. And something deeper within me goes, yes. A recognition, a remembering. And she said, just open and see what comes. So she goes back to doing what she was doing. And I open my throat It came out of me like lifetimes and thousands of years of suppressed expression, like a volcano. Like it was messy, and it was, my body was, gyrating, and the amount of suppressed energy, suppressed expression had been uncapped. And it just was wild. Like what you're getting now is 1% of what happened. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's lots of different voices. All these different aspects of myself. And that's why I like that she calls it your soul language, because it's like this unique, we've talked about your unique blueprint. Well, your voice is your unique blueprint. Your movement is, like, every part of you, all of your energy, your gifts that you have, your trauma, it's all part of your unique blueprint that you bring to the world. So, yeah, so she said to me, look, just play around with it. See, like, she's like, it's kind of like a baby learning to crawl. It's going to be messy at first, and then it'll kind of like find its way into like a more coherent language. And I get in the car afterwards and I'm like, whoa, can't let my kids see this. They're going to think I'm absolutely wackadoodle. Not that they don't already. But I couldn't stop it. So it just kept coming. And then I shared it, and my son was kind of mimicking me, but not in like a mean way. It was like he wanted to be part of it. And then one night, my daughter hadn't heard me yet, and we were out looking at the stars, as I do, talk to the stars. And the language came, and she was like, "What are you doing, Mom?" I was like, well, it's this thing. Why don't just try it and see what happens for you? It pours out of her like she's been speaking light language for her whole life. And then she starts singing in light language. And I was like, this is real. It's not like, I'm not making this up. I think we all have it. We've all suppressed it.
I would love to explore it.
Yeah.
I would love to explore it with you sometime.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a process or anything, but I think that even just planting the seed and the fact that you've now experienced it in different ways with me, like it just, there's probably, do you feel a part of you that feels like a remembering?
I feel a part of me that wants to express. And when I've done soul work, and in particular in guided meditation, to understand what is it that my soul is here to express, one of the core themes that continuously emerges is freedom to be yourself, freedom to be fully yourself, and also creating spaces for others to have freedom to be fully ourselves. And this, for me, speaks to that category. And that's why I love dance. That's why I was so attracted to rave festivals and conscious gatherings, and because it's this magical thing that once you cross that boundary to that festival, suddenly all of the societal judgments and the way people hold themselves and the fakeness that is everywhere in our society just suddenly dissipates. It's like this, we've all just agreed, okay, let's leave that. Let's leave our sort of conditioned self just at the door. You come in, you wear what you want, you say what you want, you do what you want, you dance, and it's all good. And you share. And that, for me, there was such a magic to that as soon as I felt it, I was like, oh, this is like, I feel a home here. I feel home. And because for me, growing up in rural Ireland, in the countryside, and you have this inner sensitivity to the invisible. And there was always stories for us growing up about the fairy folk and about other presences in the world that were various levels of visible, but who we could interact with. And so it fascinated me, and fantasy books fascinated me growing up. And, this idea of that there is something beyond our ordinary consciousness that is really close to us, but we're just not fully aware of it. And the more I've actually started to express how I am and who I am and come more fully into that space, it's been incredible the different areas of the world that have opened up to my perception, right? It's like now that I can go into a meditative state and I can go into the space above my head and actually experience light above my head coming down, like light beaming down from above me into me, and it expands me and fills me up. And I feel this lightness, this energy, this inspiration, this expansiveness. And I can do it on demand. Like it was always there, but I just wasn't able to connect with it.
Yeah.
Or now I've got this much greater sensitivity to feel the sensations in my body and what they want to say and how they want to speak. And it's now just a thing I can do. It's not something that is weird or strange. It's almost like, I know I can pick up that glass and I know I can drink from it. I know I can put it back down. Like that's just a relationship that exists in the world, the same way as now as this is so obvious to me that it's a relationship in the world. And the thing that I've noticed in people who have developed these sensitivities and who are on these sorts of spiritual paths, whatever form that looks like, is that there's often this fear from people who don't understand that world and this willingness to try and say, oh, that person is crazy or they're weird or they're doing something. But then the thing that has always compelled me is that when I've met these people like say Sadhguru or a mystic or someone who like Gina Chick, who is like really wild and in the earth, when I've met them, I've always said, there's something about you that draws me. And in my experience of you, you are more free, you're more joyful, you're happier than the people who are on the other side saying that you're crazy.
Yes.
And so the proof for me is in the pudding of the experience. And when you meet people who are on these paths, there's a vibrancy about them, there's a youthfulness, there's a playfulness, there's all of these things that we have lost in childhood that people want and can't get and try to get through alcohol or drugs or through spending money or through any of the areas that we are told you can get them. These people have access to them immediately and they have no conditions actually to do it. And so it's always been like, I'm going to try that. And when I try that in my own experience, it improves my life. I become more myself, more free, more joyful, happier. I start to process more of the stuff that's holding me back. And I'm getting better, not worse. And so that for me has always been the test. And I know you come from a background as well that is corporate and very much achiever and have tested that world out. And so I'd love to know your perspective on that shift and, if it's transition and awakening, what's been your experience there?
Oh, how long do we have?
We have as long as you want.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I mentioned I'm listening to Gina Chick's book right now, We Are the Stars, and it is, I can't, there's so many things. I'm kind of into her teenage years right now, and the way she describes how she was in school is so fascinating. Have you read it? No. Okay. So she was the wild child and completely didn't know how to human is the way she describes it. And I have described it that way too. But I think I was slightly better at masking, much better at masking than she was. So I remember being a kid and being like, how does everybody know what to do? How do they know the social cues? And I had actually put it down to, it's because they have a good family. As a kid, that's what I believed. It was like, okay, I am a neglected only child of a single mother. That's why I don't know. But I don't think that was it. And so I learned how to mask really well. And I was clever. I was good at school. So I got lots of praise and I got the love that I was looking for from my teachers. So I just followed that path and I did it well. And I ticked all the boxes. And there was definitely a point there where it felt good. You know, you get the dopamine hit of the success and the promotion or whatever. And then I got to a point where the hits were not hitting as well, right?
Need to up the dose.
Yeah. So like, okay, let's up the dose. Let's have the kids. Let's buy the house. And I had ticked off all the boxes on the manual that we're given. Go to university, get a good job, progress in that job, meet a partner, get married, have kids. You can kind of change the order of some of these, but it's the same list for everyone, right? Have kids, buy a house. In Sydney, that was quite an accomplishment. So that one came last. Maybe in other places that comes earlier.
Respect.
But that was the last thing on the list. And so we accomplished it. Yes. And I'm sitting there in my house. And I'm like, oh, no. The feeling didn't go away, Kian. The feeling was still there. And it was emptiness. None of it hit anymore. And that's a hard thing to say when some of these things are your children. But I was sitting there feeling like there has to be more. There has to be more than this. And I'd already I'd had these flirtations with awakening. I had listened to The Power of Now when I was like 26. And I was like, yeah. And then I met my ex-husband. We were talking about this yesterday. Like, it's the remembering and the forgetting. The remembering and the forgetting. The remembering and the forgetting. And I was like, oh, I'll just put that to the side and I'll go back to the list. Tick, tick, tick. And it felt good at the time. Like, don't get me wrong. But buying the house and being there and having ticked all the boxes and feeling that emptiness was the thing where I was like, there has to be more. And then, you sprinkle on a global pandemic. I think that was the accelerant for a lot of us, right? Because for the first time, I'm not going to the office 5 days a week. I realized, you know what? I'm an introvert. I've been masking as an extrovert for my entire life. So that was kind of the journey that brought me to the point where I kind of started just turning down the external noise and tuning in to the internal. So I was actually grateful for the pandemic. I know that that's maybe like not everybody's experience, but for me, it was like, it was freedom for the first time to really start like tuning into myself. I'm just going to pause there for a second because I feel another wave. That's a I have a lot to say. So what I noticed when this was coming through the first time was as I've gone on my healing journey, when you have an emotion that connects to like a core wound or a trauma, it's like a fractal of all the other times that you've had that experience. And it's also like a wormhole back to the original core pain of it. And when the soul language comes through, it's the voice of all the times and all the lifetimes where I've felt that thing. So right now, it's the voice of all the times when I've wanted to speak my truth. And I've gone, but it's also the voice of parts of me that are scared about what could happen. We're not burning people at the stake these days, but it's like that kind of primal fear. Yeah.
Yeah, and that fear is extremely understandable because I feel that as well. In in making the shift, and I think it's a soul-centric shift, to valuing authenticity over social acceptance. It's like the opposite of what the ego has been trained to do. It's the opposite of what the loyal soldier wants to do. And the fear that's involved in it is so primal, because you're really starting to look to the very root of our human community and how it functions, which is people say one thing and feel the other in order to keep harmony, because there aren't enough people who have got mature egos and have the tools to do the work to be able to handle the sharing of that truth.
Mm.
And so that's one of the big goals of this podcast, but also one of the big goals of spiritual work and even psychological work, is to develop enough space inside yourself to be able to go, do you know what? This person can be fully, totally, completely themselves, and it doesn't threaten me. And so you're very right to have those feelings.
Mm.
And those feelings have kept you safe and allowed you to prosper through school, family life, corporate careers, everything. And yet at this stage, now it's ready to let it go.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're not discerning about who and when you share and all those things if it's going to be constructive, but it's about valuing truth telling over people pleasing. And that goes very deep. I think my sacred wound, my number one wound, as far as I can tell right now, is this feeling that I'm never good enough, no matter what I did. And connected to that is this deep desire to prove to people that you are enough. And that means you will say whatever you have to say. You'll do whatever you have to do in order to get that approval.
Yeah.
And so this is like automatic. It's like I woke up to this about 6 months ago and I started to realize the amount of white lies that I am telling is, it's insane. It's like, it's as easy as breathing. It's like, it's of course, like, it's like, I wouldn't even have to think about it. And I don't even have to think about keeping them up either, because I am constantly scanning to see what in this situation preserves my safety. What preserves my attachment to that person? Who do I have to be? How do I have to be? And so there's a superpower in that, because you become hypersensitive to the emotional resonance of other people.
Yeah.
And so you become a brilliant healer, actually. It's like, and when you start to unpack that and you start to learn about it, you can start to use that power to really help people. And I use that in psychotherapy, I use that in any sort of the coaching or healing work that I do, because I can sense that and create a very warm and safe environment. But the cost previously of that wound has been me, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's just not a price worth paying ever. So I just commend you for the courage to share those things and then to deal with the discomfort that comes up, because that's what's ready to be let go right now. And this is the work.
It absolutely is. And what you just landed on, a few things I just want to reflect back to you. One, you create a safe space. I don't think I would have felt comfortable to allow that part of myself out, although it's kind of hard for me to keep the lid on it these days. But I also don't take myself into spaces where I don't feel safe anymore. So I've learned that about myself. And I totally resonate with the hypervigilance. Like, that's how I kept myself safe too. And we were talking about how your wound is your gift, flipped, right? So that's so true for so many of us who are healers. We're so empathic. We are so energetically attuned to what's happening around us. And I believe that, we choose the contracts, we choose our parents, we choose the life that we're going to live. We choose to incarnate into a family that is going to just dial that up to 11. And then part of our work to remember who we are is to take the distortion out of it and come back to the essence of the gift that actually is. But also we need to have such beautifully strong energetic boundaries to go, that is yours and this is mine and it's safe. Like you said, like I can hold space for people experiencing any emotion now. There's nothing that is too much or scary for me. Nothing. And so that is a beautiful thing. I remember when I first experienced that. And it is a gift to the people that you work with because we don't have spaces where we can do that. So I just wanted to reflect that all back to you. I'm so grateful that there especially are men doing this type of work because it is quite female dominated. And for those of us who are healing wounds with the masculine, for me to be able to feel vulnerable and safe enough, be in this conversation and to show that part of myself, because for me in the past, it would have been, I want this person to think that I'm whatever, right? Like you're married and that's not what I'm talking about. But there's the wounding of with any masculine, even if it's not a romantic prospect, it's I want to be seen in this way. I don't want to be seen as too much or crazy or, So yeah, I just wanted to reflect that all back to you.
Well, thank you. It's an absolute honor, and to be able to express your soul in relationship with others it's why we're here. It's our soul's dream, and so yeah, it just feels right. Feels right. And so with in your journey then to come back to where you're at, we've been jumping around and discussing so almost like 3 different levels to what it means to be human, right? To put some framework around it. And so on the human level, I think most people are familiar with the human, the personality, the ego, the sense of I, the Cian McEnroe, and who is going through life and depending on what's happening, they're acquiring certain things or they're losing certain things and they've got relationships here, they've got relationships. And there's this whole story around the human. Mm-hmm. Now we've started to expand that out a bit and we've started to say, well, bigger than this human is this soul, right? And the soul exists and it's got unique wounds, it's got unique gifts, and this soul is aware of the human experience. It's almost like it's the awareness in which the human experience is happening. And in the early stages, this soul acts almost like a guardian angel, right? It's nudging you. It's like at certain periods in your story, it's kind of leaving eggs for you on this scavenger hunt you talked about. And then you're finding them as a human and you're kind of waking up a bit more. And then there's this greater place, which is, we could call spirit, right? So if we go human, soul, and spirit called many names, maybe called God, maybe called the ultimate, the supreme, this consciousness or awareness, this is force that's encompassing everything and is everyone, right? The huge mirror, the big mirror everywhere, and the soul then being a fragment of that. And so in your experience, we've heard a lot about the human waking up to the soul and getting hints and breaking through and then coming back and getting lost again. And so you're in Sydney, you've bought a house, there's COVID has happened, your relationships are already, all this sort of stuff, you're waking up to it. How do you get from where you are there to sort of the work you're doing now and how you're expressing yourself in the world?
Oh, wow. To be honest, it's through a lot of jumping off of cliffs into the unknown. That also, if we have the checklist of the things that you're meant to do, the absolute do not do is undoing those things, right? Like that's what we're trained. It's like your life is going to end if you go backwards, right? And so I'm sitting there in my house going, I don't want to live in this house with this person. I don't want to be doing this job anymore. I don't even know if I want to live in this city anymore. Like pretty much all of the foundational pieces that the human has been taught you should want and are going to give you that feeling of safety and security. Because I think that all these goals that we have in life are actually in service of how we want to feel. And greater than that, like what our soul is calling us towards. But like, if we're just going one step beyond like the thing on the list, it's like, okay, I want to feel secure. I want to feel loved. I want to feel joy, you know? And I was like, wait, all these things that I was told were meant to give me that haven't. So what do I actually, like, what in my soul is true for me? And this is when I started working with Martha Beck. So Martha Beck was Oprah's life coach. I didn't know that at the time. And I still have a bit of like, ugh, when it comes to life coaching, because there's so much connotation there, but we'll just go, she's amazing. Like, and I ended up working with a coach who'd studied with her, and she helped kind of nudge me towards doing the training myself. And I was like, but I don't even know if I want to be a coach. And I'm still working full time in my tech career. He was like, the thing about this training is you get so much coaching, you know, you're coaching peers and getting coaching, and it will actually help you figure out what you want. And through that process, I realized, you know, okay, I do actually really enjoy coaching. I don't want to be living here. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. I don't want to be in this job anymore. And I felt really strongly that my purpose was to be of service to other people in some way. It wasn't clear to me at that point, but I also knew that I had a lot of healing to do, because I was like at max burnout. I had 2 young kids, working full time, like very emotionally draining marriage. And I was like, okay, I just need some time. So the first thing that kind of unraveled the going backwards on the list was my marriage. And I had a timeline about when that could end, because I was like, well, when my youngest starts school, and, you know, like the ego mind tries to control how all the things are going to happen. And the universe took it out of my hands. And I'm so grateful for that, because it happened about 1.5 years before my timeline, which meant I'm like that much further ahead, right? On the timeline. But what it did was, okay, I can breathe a bit. I'm in my own energy now. I can do more healing. Yes, I'm a single mom half the time, you know, with my kids half the time, but I just got that little bit more breath of fresh air. I was like, okay, but this job still isn't working for me. And I moved to the northern beaches, which was more of the experience I wanted to have, but I'm still having to drive through Sydney traffic and go into an office a few days a week. And at one stage, I said to my manager, I was like, you help me manifest a redundancy. And it was like to have that clarity and to actually say it, because I told some friends that I had said this, and they're like, oh, how could you say that? What? Well, now they're going to know that you don't want to work there anymore. And I was like, hello, they already know that. Like, I've been on the wind down for years, and I'm still performing at a decent level, but I'm no longer hooked into the system, right? Like, you can't get me to do the extra projects because I don't care about getting promoted. Like, I'm going to do the bare minimum and feel okay about that, because I'd never felt okay about that in my entire life. But I was reclaiming my energy for myself. And that was a big part of it. I was looking at, you know, I don't know if you've heard of like the spoons theory. I won't go into it because it's not what resonated for me. But the way I looked at things was as an energy balance. It was like, are the things that are giving me energy outweighing the things that are draining my energy? And so I first looked at that within my job. It was like, I'm giving too many fucks about too many things that aren't important here. So those can all go. And so I got it was probably like originally 80% draining and 20% energizing. And I got it to like 90-10 the other way. I'm winning. I'm still getting paid really well. I'm no longer managing anyone. Like, this is how I was like ruthless. I was like, this does not give me energy. This drains me energy. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And then for the first time, I could like look up and go, oh, okay. What do I actually want? And I'm meditating and I'm going to workshops and all the things, right? And About 6 months later, I was actually on long service leave. And I woke up to all these messages from people saying, "Oh my God, did you see the news? Da 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 da. Our company's doing like a massive global redundancy." But they hadn't made anyone redundant since the GFC. So when I'd said it 6 months earlier to my manager, I was like, this is a pipe dream. But you never know how things are going to work out. And again, not everybody had the same experience of being made redundant that I did. But they were saying nobody knows who's on the list and da da da. And I was like, I'm just going to put it out there. And if it makes it to someone who has any influence, great. But it was because I had such clarity about what I wanted. And I wasn't afraid to say it, which is, I think, those are two pieces that are so critical, right?
I can't just, because there's so many things in what you're saying that are lessons as well that I want to just pause and pick up on.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, myself included, I always wonder, like, how do I start to align my life to what I'm feeling inside? First of all, it's a recognition that what gives you energy, what lights you up, what puts you on fire is the essence of what your soul is here to do.
Yes.
It's not a frivolous thing that should be squeezed in after you've done all of the things that are dutiful and that are the things that you do in order to live a good life. And then you get to do this. Then you get to go and do the thing, right? As a treat for all of that, okay? So that's one big thing.
Yes.
Then the other big recognition is all those things that feel heavy to you are actually things that you should let go of.
Yeah.
And so just the reorganization of that, because what you're talking about there is a complete redefinition of what success means. Because we have been conditioned to say success is the achievement of material security, control, status, etc., and safety. And so, and relationships that are beneficial to our prosperity in the world. Now, in order to shift that, you have to then go, well, do you know what? I actually have to start listening and using my intuition to discern what are the things that are expansive. So if there are relationships for me that are really heavy and that I've been bringing on for long, and I was like, do you know what? Every time I catch up with that person, I'm just like, I'm just doing it because, they're well connected to that other group. And I'm hoping that in sometimes maybe when I start my own business, that will help me. It's like all of these calculations are the things that need to be dropped and just saying, well, no, who are the people that makes me feel expansive, right? As you put it. And so that in itself it takes radical work to come to that insight and then radical courage to start to actually align your life. And it takes time also, because it's not about abdicating all your responsibilities. It's about slowly moving towards the life that you want and knowing what that is. And so that takes huge ability to actually listen inwards and intuit, because there's a very different resonance to something that lights you up and you feel it in the bodily sensations you're experiencing and the sense of expansiveness that you get energetically. Not through a mental calculation of, yes, that's actually logically, that makes sense. And so starting to align your life to that and redefining success as how close is my life to that.
Yes.
Like that in itself is major. I just want to point that out. And then doing the healing work that comes up that wants to pull you back, right? And that process of going forward like that and then doing the healing to pull you back and listening to yourself, it just takes time and it takes courage and it takes dedication. But at some point in your life, you have to decide that that's how you're going to organize. And that's what you're doing in this period. And I think it's such a necessary period to start to point out to people if you're wondering like, well, this sounds amazing, but like, where would I start? Like you actually already know. You're just not listening.
Yes.
And so what would you say to someone who's listening to this right now and is like, I really get a sense of what they're talking about and it feels it's resonating with me, but I have no idea where to start?
Oh, I love that question. Because what came up for me was one of the best tools that I learned from Martha Beck and from the Wayfinder Life coaching training is the body compass. And I kind of integrate this now into my intuitive mentorship as well. But she has you identify your body feels of when you feel expanded and when you feel contracted. So when something excites you, so mine is like this buzzy, excited feeling. It's almost like the barriers of my skin no longer exist and I'm like connected to all that is, right? Now I know that's what that feeling is. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew it was like, yes, like it's the fuck yes feeling, right? And then my contracted feeling is like this, it's like this armor. It's really hunched in, it's like tight in my chest. And it's like, oh, like, no. But when you have so much noise going on, and especially if you're living in your head all the time, you can't really tune into that. So like there is a need to slow down and drown out some external noise to create that space to be able to tune into these things. And now I also use the body sway test, which is kind of like muscle testing sometimes to make quick decisions. Because a lot of this is about reducing the mental load of the things that drain us throughout the day that don't need to take up our mind space. I mean, to be honest, like, I think this is where AI is actually really beneficial as well. I was super resistant for a long time. And then I had something where I just needed to get it done quickly. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm just going to try it out. And then I realized, oh, this can actually just take some of those like low value mental load tasks off my plate so I can actually put my energy into what will give me more of my expansive feeling. Like that other stuff gives me the contracted feeling. So let me farm that out to technology. So yeah, I would say the body compass is, and it's like there's a process that I run people through that helps you hone it and then calibrate it. And then you start using it to make small decisions first. Because to your point, like what I'm talking about is like a 4-year process that I've been through since, the end of my marriage through to where I'm at now, which is, feeling energized enough to be putting my soul aligned business out into the world. But that took 4 years. The day that my ex-husband and I separated was the day I registered for my ABN for my coaching business. Like there's some symbolism here, right? And so it's taken this long for me to feel like I'd reclaimed enough of my energy. I'd done enough of the healing because it's also really important to me to be able to hold a really safe space, a trauma-informed space where I knew I wouldn't be projecting my own stuff onto people and that I knew that I would have enough energy that, because I was on these waves of like, from burnout, you can go down pretty like into a hole for a while. And there was a fear that I was going to keep repeating those cycles. And so I needed to get to a point where I felt energized enough that I knew I could show up consistently enough. I think consistency is a trap as well. So like, especially for women, we need to be able to follow the flows of our cycle and our energy. But yeah, I would say first, coming into your body, feeling into, is it a yes or a no? And then you can start honing your other intuitive skills as well. But that's where I'd start.
Huge. I'm wondering, one of the things I like to do on this podcast is to, if possible, allow the guest to share like it can be a 2, 3, a 5-minute like little guided experience of something that they think that someone listening to this could take away. And then I can clip that and share that as well as a separate little piece.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'd be
Absolutely
able to guide, and even a short guidance? And
I could do the body compass, like a guided meditation for people. Yeah, for sure.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I need, because I haven't done it in a little while, but I have it on my phone. So if you're okay with me,
yeah, absolutely.
Actually like reading it, I could do it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Please.
Perfect.
That would
Let's
be perfect.
do that. What we're going to be doing is we're identifying those sensations in your body that are linked to your yes and your no. And we'll go through a process to do that. And we'll use a 0 to 10 scale. So 10 is fuck yes, and 0 is get me the hell out of here. The memories that I'm going to ask you to bring up, we don't want a 10 out of 10 or 0. Like we don't want the intense ones. We're kind of looking in the middle, like a 4 to 5 to 6. And we're going to, so we're calibrating your body compass. Your body compass is the thing that orients you towards your North Star. So just like we were just saying, like sometimes we're getting these clues and we're not exactly sure what they mean, but we know if we're kind of heading in the right direction or not. And that's what this does, is like, okay, there's all these decision points. And when you hear people talk about timeline splitting, to me, that's what it is. It's like, okay, if I take this path or I take this path, then all of these other things unfold. Is this one taking me more in the direction that I'm meant to go? Now, there's a school of thought that they all take you in the direction. Some of them are just a little gnarlier than others. But if you want to be living more in alignment, this is a great way to do it. So we're going to first calibrate using body sensations. And we're going to start with a good memory. Oh, no, sorry. We will start with an unpleasant memory, and then we'll end with a good memory. And yes, so I'll have you just take a few deep breaths, dropping into your heart, imagining that your heart itself is breathing. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, making sound if you'd like. And 2 more times. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to think about a time when things either weren't working well, you were pretty unhappy, or even a little bit miserable. You don't want to go to a traumatic memory or the worst memory, just a pretty yucky time in your life. It can be recent or a long time ago, it doesn't matter. And you don't need to tell me the memory. Do you have a memory that's coming up for you? Brilliant. So, keeping your eyes closed, you're going to dive back into that memory as if you're stepping into a scene in a movie of your past. You'll use your senses to feel what you are seeing and hearing. Really immerse into the memory. Possibly even smells, sounds, even textures. There are other people in the memory. What are they saying and doing? So you're just going to really dive in and step back into that memory. And I won't talk while you do that, so you can really get in there and put yourself back in it. So go ahead, using your senses, dive back into that memory. And staying in that memory, while you're there in it, you can scan your body and tell me what you're noticing about how your body feels when you're in it.
Feeling a lump in my throat. Very noticeable. Punch in my shoulders and a heaviness. As if my heart is made of lead or heavy. There's a tightness, like my breath doesn't come easy.
And if you were going to give the lump in your throat color or a texture or a temperature.
Black. Blackness.
Feeling in your chest. Describe it. Color or texture or even a metaphor.
Sense of trapped despair, hopelessness, a grayness, bleakness, stuckness.
How about the hunched shoulders?
The weight, actually, like a sense of being suffocated by a weight or held down by the necessity, the have to, like there's no way out.
And imagine a continuum that ranges from -10 for the most unpleasant sensations possible, through to 0 for neutral, and +10 for the most positive sensations possible. Rate these sensations from 0 to -10 on the scale.
Feels like a 3 to me.
A -3? Okay.
Right.
And if you were to give a name to this constellation of sensations, what would you call it?
To me, it's like been chained to a ball, like a ball and chain, like a weight is holding me back that I can't get out. Call it like heavy or weight or trapped. The ball and chain, maybe.
The ball and chain feels like it's got some very evocative energy to it. So, and you can always come back and rename this if something else comes to you, but we'll just call it ball and chain for now. We want to thank that experience for the wisdom that it's given us today and allow it to release. Coming back into neutral, back into the heart. You're back to neutral now. And more there. A few breaths might be nice. Very good. Your other hand just released. Beautiful. So now I'm going to ask you to focus on one of the very best times of your life. This can be a moment or an entire life phase or anything in between. Goal is to find something that you can connect with, sensations of joy, pleasure, excitement. So I'll have you feel into and allow a memory to arise. I see a lovely smile on your face. Had something come up for you. Beautiful. And you don't have to tell me what it is. And tell me again, what sensations are you feeling in your body right now?
This tingling expansiveness across the back and the shoulders and the front of the chest. Opening, enlivening energy. And like an expansiveness now in the heart. An opening sense of possibility, of freedom, just like a rightness, like you want to laugh, Like you want to laugh because it's so right and just funny and free.
Yes. So if we were going to give this feeling some texture, shape, color, metaphor, sensations in your body.
It's almost like a set of wings expanding. It's almost like what you imagine it would feel like to be a bird and fly. You just open and just...
Ooh, yes. Okay. Is there a name that comes to mind?
Wings, maybe.
Okay, beautiful.
Soaring.
I'm going to let you soak that feeling in for a few more moments.
The chest and heart radiate this sort of pulsing, livening energy.
Beautiful. Much as I don't want to take you out of that, I will bring you back. Just follow a few breaths back, and when you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Here.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, yeah, the way you would use that now, do you feel ready to go there? So I think it's quite helpful to have those kind of short names for it because it can help you tap back into that feeling. And so an easy way to use it to start off is with a to-do list of like mundane shit, right? And so like make a list of 5 to 10 things that you need to do and tune into the body compass and rate them on the scale of -10 to +10. How does that task feel to you? And then for the ones that are on the negative end of the scale, then there's the bin, barter, bin, barter, and better tool that Martha teaches, which is like, okay, if this is something really negative, can I just get rid of it? Do I actually have to do this thing? And that's a question I think we don't ask ourselves. Right? When I started binning things at work, it was really awesome. Like, nothing's going to happen if I don't do this thing. So much of it was self-imposed.
My experience of that is that I am addicted to the busyness, the sense of pseudo purpose it gives me to be in action. So therefore, any action is better than to sit and feel the emptiness of the lack of really being present with yourself.
Well, and that, I have a hunch, connects directly back to what you were saying about when your dad came home, right? You've been trained to be busy because then you are not going to be punished.
Busy is safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really interesting one then. So binning to you might actually bring up your ball and chain feeling, which is a completely different thing, I think, to work on then, is how do you bring your body back into safety of being still, which is a huge part of the journey. Yeah, so like kind of rewiring the connections of those things. Well, and then just for the tool, just so people can use it if they want. The other ones are barter. So is there someone you can ask to help do this thing that you really don't want to do, that they don't mind doing those types of things? But, you know, I used to joke to my husband, "You're so great at taking the bins out." You know, I think as we tend to do, I hated taking the bins out. I don't mind now. It's funny. Anyway, and then better it by like, okay, well, maybe I can take a friend along, or I'm going to treat myself to a cacao afterwards or before. You don't have to earn pleasure. So yeah, so that's how the body compass can start using it, just to calibrate it and see what it feels like. And then you can start using it for anything. Yeah.
I would love to. So I'm just...
Yeah.
Oh. One thing I would be curious to hone in on here is that for some people hearing that, they might think, well, what you're doing there is essentially just the same as what we're all wired to do, which is avoid doing hard things and just do the things that feel nice. So I was like, if you gave me that opportunity, then all I'd want to do is lie on the couch, eat ice cream and watch TV. Right. And that's what intuitive would be for me. Or I'd go on holidays and I'd drink by the pool. And in my experience, it's a very different feeling when you actually start to discern. It's not that you don't do hard things. You might actually do harder things, but it feels, from where it's coming from, it feels expansive and nourishing. And actually the imagining of just lying on the couch and eating chocolate and watching TV actually feels heavy and dull.
That feels like ball and chain to me.
It feels ball and chain. And so I don't know if you could speak to that dynamic, because in what I'm calling the old world, in the way that we normally operate, we do all these things we don't want to do, and then we go on holidays, and that's our reward. And that's all I'd want to do if I wasn't doing all the things I didn't want to do. So what is it about doing tasks, sweeping, doing chores, like you said, taking the bins out? Do these things go away? How do you do the menial tasks, and what's that whole landscape like?
Well, I guess I want to come back to what you said about, the sitting on the couch and eating chocolate, or the holidays even. My experience and understanding is that actually we have, as a culture, built up an entire way of living around avoiding pain and discomfort. And we do that through things that numb us and addictions, right? So there is actually a very big difference between your wings feeling and sitting on the couch and, numbing out, essentially, right? Like, that's probably a neutral, if anything, because it's numb. So I think that's one thing to bring some consciousness to for people. And look, I still sit on the couch and watch shitty TV sometimes and just like zone out. But I notice how it feels in my body. I notice how it feels in my body when I'm scrolling. That's a big one. So I just want to call some attention to that. I actually start feeling sick. I've been scrolling for more than like 5 minutes. So, but it's addictive. So we do it. When it comes to tasks, I mean, this is an interesting one to ask a single mom. It's like, there's a lot of things that I do that I'd have to do that I don't love doing, but I do try to I have my cacao first, right? Like, I don't believe anymore that I have to wait until afterwards to treat myself because I've been a good girl and I've done all the things I was supposed to do. I also know how to work with my energy. So when I'm feeling a burst of energy, or I'm in my summer week of my cycle, that's when I kind of do a lot of things. That's when I socialize. That's when I get a lot of things done around the house. And I know the week leading up to my period, it's not happening. And I might tell my kids, like, this is the time of the month when you have to be gentle with mommy. I take care of you all month. And just knowing those things about yourself. So you can set yourself up for success. But it takes so much conscious awareness of yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like becoming really not like overly self-aware in the way that I think it can happen when you I think there's a lot of people who are intellectually self-aware, but not really embodied self-aware.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's a big transition, which is implicit in what you said about having your cacao first, is that your self-worth no longer becomes conditional on your completion of the task.
No.
So if self-worth exists before and after and independent of any of these things happening, you actually find that a lot of the heaviness drops away from them, and you can zone in and be present. And things that were, quote unquote, annoying things to do, like taking the bins out or whatever sort of cleaning event, now becomes just something that you're doing, and you're doing it from a place of presence and lightness, and not a place of heaviness, which is perhaps how you were trained to do it or forced to do it when you were younger. And so it all just like becomes less serious, I think.
Well, and the other thing I've started to notice is, how does it feel in my body when my kitchen is clean? right? So that's the incentive for me. My nervous system feels a lot calmer when I have clear spaces. So it's like, okay, yes, this is what it takes to get there, but it's worth it. Especially like I want to clean up at night so that I come out first thing in the morning. And that's almost a gift to myself. It's this loving kindness, like you were saying about the wild child, and I love that. Like I did internal family systems therapy for a while, which I really found helpful. But it's like this loving mother, the loving mothering that I can give to myself that I didn't necessarily receive as a child. And it's not just for my children, it's for my inner child. And now I talk to her while I'm cleaning or while I'm driving, or like we are constantly in dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful relationship to have with yourself, and to know that you, as that nurturing parent, and as the awareness that's watching this human experience, can bring the loving presence to yourself. You don't need to go out into the world to get validation. And that's extremely healing. And so I'd love to bring it full circle back to now, the work that you're doing with people. And you've shared a really nice aspect of it there. But how do you tell people now what you do?
So I am a life coach. The life coaching philosophy that Martha teaches is quite spiritual and connected. And it's really well suited to people going through massive life transitions. And because I've gone through so many myself, I feel that I'm well suited to teach from a place of lived experience and to guide from that place. So that was kind of the foundation of what, my escape plan from my old life was like, okay, this is what I'll do. But there was something missing. And, actually the tool that we just did is from Wayfinder Life Coaching. And it does have a bit of an element of what I've brought in, which is, the quantum hypnosis piece. So as I started going down this galactic path, what drew me to quantum hypnosis was to get in touch with my off-planet lifetimes and connect with other starseeds who resonate with having had, have that being a big influence in their lives now. And so that was kind of my curiosity that sparked. But then I realized, it's actually a beautiful way just to help unearth the clues that people can use to understand what are those wounds that are keeping me stuck in these loops. And now I have conscious awareness that I would like to be out of them. I want to go through this huge life transition, but I'm scared. And so I think of myself as kind of a cosmic doula. Doulas help people through birth and death, but there's this whole time between them, right? Like your life. And sometimes what we just need is someone who's like, trust me, I've done it. I've jumped off a similar cliff. You don't die. And actually, the hand of God comes and catches you, and it's going to be more miraculous than you could ever imagine. And so then I help people tune into their own intuitive gifts, we talked. So Kian and I met I did a group quantum hypnosis session, which was pretty magical. And it was a massive vision that I'd held for a few years of holding a space like that. And I wove into that, a deeper understanding of the clairs and our intuition. And so that's another piece that I bring into what I'm doing. And then I bring in the Galactic heritage cards and, my knowledge about what's happened in our galaxy that we can learn from. So bringing it all together to work with people in a deeper way. I offer one-on-one, one-off quantum hypnosis sessions or readings. Really like to work with people in kind of 3 to 6 month containers where we can go deep using all of those tools to uncover your soul's blueprint, essentially. And then I can kind of just shine the light a bit to say, okay, it's safe to step that way. And I'm here with you and help you hone into your compass. And yeah, I feel really just... it feels like what my soul has been guiding me towards, and all the pieces are coming together. It's my buzzy, expanded feeling to work with people who are really comfortable in exploring things that aren't necessarily like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. Like it's more of an intuitive journey where I'm tuning into what they are needing. I can tap into what their higher self, the guidance that it's providing. So yeah, it's kind of bringing all of the tools, all of the alchemy of, the wounds that have uncovered my gifts, bringing that to help guide other people.
Yeah, I'm seeing so many, knowing your story now a little bit more and having discussed it in this podcast, I'm seeing so many of the wounds that you had and are working on flipped into gifts, like wanting to create spaces where people can tap into their intuition and discernment of what actually lights them up, because you spent so long in your life repressing all of those things, wanting to help people to actually live the life that they want now rather than putting it into the future again, and maybe even giving up hope that it could ever be possible.
Yeah.
And having been through an experience like this with you, and perhaps I can share my experience of how you've guided, I can see and I've experienced the power of that, because the session that we did was all about past life soul regressions. And I had been really interested in past life because I'd read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, where he's a psychiatrist, couldn't heal the trauma. He's a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist, so using talk therapy and a lot of hypnosis to heal trauma, and just couldn't crack the trauma from this woman in any way. And then started to regress back into past lifetimes and just guide her in hypnosis. And suddenly, boom, she was going back into past lifetimes and she was experiencing traumatic experiences, deaths in those lifetimes that were directly related to her trauma now. And it was I think it was a really intense fear of deep water or drowning was the one that she had. And so I was fascinated by that. And because of the work I've done in terms of trauma work with people over the years, I'm very familiar with this idea of uncovering patterns inside yourself and letting them go. And so it made complete sense to me that there could be past life scenarios, because having experienced awareness beyond this body mind and having looked into a little bit into ideas like around reincarnation, and even a lot of the research around reincarnation, which there is thousands of studies and cases of reincarnation if you look for them, right?
Exactly.
In many different cultures. And it's not even you're speaking to some of my friends who are from India, it's not even a question. It's not even like, oh, I wonder, is that real? It's like, no, like we all know that that's real.
Yeah.
And so having gone into that a bit, I was fascinated by this past life soul regression, but not expecting anything to happen. And my experience when you guided us in and created that space was you guided us through almost like a vortex, like you got a little vortex, like a wormhole as you described, and asked us to go back to significant events in previous lifetimes. And the very first one that I went back to was an experience of almost like a Viking time experience where I was a warrior and we were in battle, myself and my wife, my partner. And this is a person who I had seen before, actually had seen previously last year when I was back in Ireland. I was at a burial site, an ancient burial site there, and I'd had a flashing image of a woman with red hair laughing at me across a fire, like a cheeky kind of a grin. And I had been like, that was different. That was a very interesting experience to have there. And then it was that same woman again when I did this past life regression, and I realized that was my wife. And then she was killed in that battle. And I remember then in that past life being at the funeral pyre and seeing a little son beside me and just watching my wife burn, and the grief, the grief was pouring out of me. And actually a friend of mine who is a coach to me now was in that lifetime and had his hand and was comforting me. And this memory was all about grief, and this was coming through me. And so I'm lying on the floor in this yoga studio and I'm like, what is going on? But it's coming out of me. And then you transport us again. And then I'm actually in a medieval time and more of a peasant lifetime where my wife has died again. And this time it's from a disease, but this time I feel this numbness, like a complete dislocation. Like whatever had happened in that previous lifetime had taught me just like, don't expect love to last. Just don't fully commit and just keep the numb. And so I'd learned this numbing. And so in that, I'm just hollow and I'm just watching this happen. And it's almost as if my soul is like, of course, this is what happens. This is why you don't let yourself fully go into a relationship, because it's so painful. And then, boom, again, another lifetime. And then suddenly I'm a young Indian girl. And this young Indian girl has been prepared for her wedding. And she's very nervous and excited and also like very, very apprehensive because she's so young, but it's an arranged marriage. And so she's being married to this man, and the man is an older man, and the mother is there, and the mother's really reluctant and hesitant, but dutiful. And so she gives away me, and so I go, and then this man is cruel, right? The energy is cruel and older and sort of like just sleazy, kind of like the way I could describe it was like greasy kind of, just, and forces himself on me then in our wedding night. And that's what I experienced then, that feeling of being forced on and being forced sexually, right, at such a young age. And again, this like numbness, this complete like dislocation. And then underneath that, an anger, like a repressed anger, like a rage. And so then I'm like, boom, next. So you move us to the next experience. And in that, I'm a younger Native American man, and we're in this teepee, and then there's an old chief, and it's the same person, right? But the chief is in the tent, and everyone hates the chief, but they're afraid of the chief. And it's the same person from the previous lifetime. And I'm in there and I'm watching this, and I can see the dynamic. And then it flashes to another scene where the chief is shouting at me or abusing me in some way. And when he turns his back, I grab a rock, and that anger comes through from that previous, and I just basically beat him to death with a rock, like violently murder him with a rock. And so I'm watching, and then it's anger this time. Anger is just like boiling through me. I can feel it all across my chest and in my arms, that real anger response, like rage. And then we go to another lifetime. And in this lifetime, I'm a young African boy. And I'm there with my sister. My sister's like, don't go out after dark. Like, because I'm really adventurous and I want to explore. And I'm sort of laughing and we're playing. And then it's nighttime, and you had guided us to go to the end of that lifetime. And I'm away from the camp, and I realize I've gone too far. And I start to hear like the yips of a hyena, like from a nature film, you can hear those yips and like the laughing kind of cackling of a hyena. And I realize I'm being tracked by these hyenas, and they're all around me, and I'm running and running and running. But then this hyena comes out on the path, and they're just closing in on me, and I can feel like the fear I'm feeling here now. My heart is hammering, and it's all over my body. And I can actually see myself being killed by these hyenas and eaten, and the fear again. So I've experienced deep grief, I've experienced deep anger, and I've experienced deep fear. And my intention setting before the session was burn away anything that is not in my highest. Like burn away anything that is not serving me. Burn anything that's not in alignment.
Yeah.
And so these deep emotional wounds are being burnt away, like sources of wounds now in my present life. And then the final one you actually guide us to, which for me was the most surprising, was an off-planet experience. And this is where your galactic side comes in. And suddenly I'm in this huge, like white ball of light sort of planet. And we're all these little balls of light, separate, but no bodies, but can communicate and hear telepathically and sense things. And so we're all just going about our work, which intuitive to me felt like bringing the light of awareness into places that were dark and guiding beings who were doing this work and other beings at different levels. And so we're having this experience. It's very much like very intense cosmic energy, like where it's like, like a fusion reactor, and you're seeing and then I'm experiencing this, and then you said go to the end of that lifetime, and then everything just kind of just merges together and just disappears in this one big rush of energy. And then you guided us into a meeting place after where you just were able to meet any soul guides, and you'd asked about just anyone who's showing you something or any questions you have that you wanted to ask. And I remember being there, and the person who was there the most was this Indian saint called Ramana Maharshi, who is a very beloved Indian saint who famously was a proponent of Advaita Vedanta, who just continuously promoted the question of asking, who am I? Who am I? Seek the source, who am I? And so his presence was there, or my sense of his presence was there. And so I didn't really have any questions because I knew what I'd intended. And I was very familiar with the process of healing trauma and how it feels like when you're going through a traumatic healing experience that you are an awareness that's big enough to hold it all.
Yeah.
And it processes, and the sensations come up and then they leave, and you just feel normal. You feel like, yes, that's it. That's great. That's a relief. I love it. And I keep going. It feels good to shed that, but I'm not rattled by it anymore. And so I had this strange sense of everything was right and everything was okay. And then you sort of guided us back out, and so I'm writing all this stuff down. And so I'd love to hear from you, having guided people in those experiences, having those experiences yourself. You know, what's happening there? What would you say about that whole space and that work you do?
Well, I have a few questions for you because we haven't actually talked since then about your experience. So I'll tell you my experience, and then I'll be curious to see how that resonates. So the way that I see it, I was kind of describing it before, is we're on this arc from being one with source to fragmentation, deepest separation and polarity, and then healing and back to reunification with source. It's kind of like the hero's journey of it, right? And the other way that I think of it is our soul is like, not going to get the terminology right about this, but think of it as like the nucleus, and then it's got these arms coming off with all of these like nodes at the end. And those are all of your different lifetimes. And there are, because time and space is an illusion, and that's the way quantum hypnosis works, is like you can travel to any lifetime point in time because it's actually all happening simultaneously. It's just this 3D construct where that's one of the rules of the game. You can travel through to any other lifetime to find kind of like the originating source of that, whatever the energetic profile, the emotional profile, the signature that you're experiencing in life today. You can kind of find the source of it. And if you're able to, and it's beautiful that because in a group space, you're kind of guiding the experience mostly yourself with my assistance, that you were able to complete that process for yourself, because some people will get stuck there. And this is where one-on-one is quite good, because I can help then guide people. I think we have to learn how to allow ourselves to feel the pain of it, right? Like actually go, okay, this is grief, and not brace ourselves, not numb ourselves, and go, I'm going to survive this. And as I do, it will happen like a wave, and then I will come back to neutrality. And to me, that's what it is. It's like, we're reclaiming all of these pieces of ourselves that are fragmented off from these traumatic experiences. And so if you have something recurring in this lifetime, this current lifetime, that you've maybe done inner child healing, you've done trauma healing, and you're like, okay, I feel like I've kind of gotten part of it, but there's something still missing. Traveling to these other lifetimes can give you that, that healing, but it also can give you a perspective that maybe you're a little bit too close to things from this lifetime, or maybe like for me, I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood. So sometimes I can see it through a different perspective, like, oh, I understand my relationship with my father a lot better because of a past lifetime that we've had together. And now I understand why I carry this emotion and he carries this emotion. It seems to never go anywhere. It's like, that's what we brought into this lifetime. So yeah, for me, it's just like, if we're wanting to find clues that are guiding us back to our wholeness, it's a great tool that helps connect us with our multidimensional selves, not just this human experience, which is one of who knows how many lifetimes we've had. Yeah.
And wow. Mm.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please do.
So based on your intention that you set, it sounds like you got a lot of the healing and learning that you needed within the session, but what have you noticed in the few weeks since that?
I have noticed an acceleration in more healing work to come up, and things that I was not ready to see now being shown to me. For example, one of the ones that I've been working on this week is this sense of worthiness. And so for the men in my lineage, a lot of your self-worth was dependent on your ability to work physically. So they were farmers, they were salt of the earth people, and a son is essentially equivalent to his ability to work or not. And up until the point of being capable of working and contributing in that way, it's a liability. And then past that point, then we'll tolerate you if you're a good worker. But if you're not a good worker, if it's like you're lazy and it's idleness, all of these things were really, really looked down upon. Right. And so now one of the biggest pieces of wounding for me coming up at the moment is I'm trying to shift towards the new paradigm of self-worth is unconditional. And just your presence here in this lifetime is enough.
Yes.
Just your presence here. And that is a very high state. And so everything that's coming up now, and everything that's coming up is showing me all of the ways in which I'm conditioned not to be able to be in that state, all of the heaviness that comes up. And I've been able to go deeper into that and actually experience more into that than I ever have before, and experience much more emotional release than I ever had before, because for a long, long time, I've really struggled to cry and to experience the grief. So I'll get stuck in the fear and the anger that sits atop the grief, but then getting below and to the grief has been hard, and to get the actual healing done on that grief, that's the root. And so now I've been able to access that grief a lot easier and quicker, and start to heal relationships with my father and my grandfather in this lifetime. So do more ancestral healing because the past life has been cleared a little bit more. And then that's led me to be able to have a lot more clarity of discernment around what I want to do with my life, and given me the spare capacity to actually look up and be able to see pathways in my life that previously were locked to me. So for example, it would be like, you need to be making more money continuously in progression for the rest of your life in order to secure. There's no such thing as a backwards. You couldn't take a casual job and take a sideways step and explore things out and take some time. So you must go as directly and as quickly as you possibly can.
Up and to the right.
And that's just it. And so if you're on a couple of 100K now, you need to keep going, right? So it's like, Let's do that. And so that had blocked me for a long time because my self-worth was attached to my ability to provide and to create and to have a house and all of these things. And so that blocked me from even seeing any other possibility. But now I can actually see with clarity and also feel the expansiveness of a step like that. And to really see and know that that's absolutely fine. And it's okay to do that. And so it gives me the confidence to follow that sense of expansiveness, and there's enough heaviness has gone that I can actually do it. And so for me, that's been huge. Yeah,
That's awesome.
So huge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole journey is like that. And I think what really resonates for me is that sense of worth just being. And it's the just being that has been the massive shift for me, because now I don't have a goal. And that's a really weird. I know.
Y'all can't say that.
No, but there's literally not a goal. I am here for the experience of this life. I believe that's what the incarnation is for. It's to gather as many experiences as we can. And they're not all love and light, right? Like, you have to go into the depths, to the darkness, the shadow, which we all have within us. That's actually a brilliant use of past life regression, is to go see how you were the bad guy in a different life and how you carry that guilt, shame, whatever into this life, right? So for me, getting it to the point, and this is where like the concept of the cosmic scavenger hunt came from. It's like, I'm literally here just to be as present as I can to the clues that are arising around me and trusting when to follow them and just going there and not knowing where it's taking me. Just like you did. It's like, okay, some part of you knew that that needed to be cleared, but you didn't necessarily know why. But then it unveils itself, and it's almost like you only just need to see the next step. You don't need to see the whole path laid out in front of you. And so once you feel comfortable and worthy within yourself that I'm not here to perform for anyone. I've completely redefined what success looks like. Success looks like I'm in control of my energy. That is success to me. And that I am as tuned into my intuition as I can be. And it's a very different success metric than I had for most of my life. So yeah, if I'm there, I'm present, and I'm able to now be the mother that I wanted to be, who I was not her when I was super stressed out and, doing the things that I was told were going to give me the security and all the things that you think kids actually need. No, what they need is someone who's dealing with their own shit. So you don't dump it on them, right? They'll still get a little bit. They'll get the ones that's meant for them. They'll have their stuff to deal with. But yeah, for me, is if I'm present, and like one of the biggest things kids have taught me is when they're at an age that something has happened to you, especially with my daughter, it will bring up my shit from that age. So like when she was 8, so much stuff came to the surface. That's when my dad left, da-da-da-da-da. And rather than just being triggered by her, I'm like, oh, what's this for me? And being able to live in that way of just like the curiosity and an ability to look at your own darkness, I think is like, and see where I've been in victim consciousness and see, where I've been trying to make someone else the bad guy and taking like real responsibility. That is pure freedom. And life becomes so much fun. Even even when I'm in the depths of like shadow work, I'm like, I know this is taking me somewhere. And I can actually even just appreciate it for the experience of, well, you've seen it here today, right? Like you've seen me go into like, oh my God, I can't do this in front of someone, to like, oh, actually, I know that this is an important part of my journey. And now I feel so, like you said, like free and like, oh, I just completed one of my missions in a way. And who knows what it's going to unlock.
Yeah. And to see, I think the most hopeful thing for me in this whole area is to see that there is a higher purpose to this whole experience, and that there is something greater. And the way I like to put it was, if anyone's ever read Harry Potter or read a fantasy novel or read something, and when you're a kid and you get the experience where you realize suddenly that Hogwarts was made up and you're not going to get your letter through the door, and it's so crushing, because you have this intuitive sense that there is more and there's magic in the world. But it's not magic, it's just dimensions that you haven't comprehended yet. And so the message that you are greater than just this one body mind, greater than the suffering, and you're greater than all of the things that have happened to you, and you're not defined by your trauma or by your current relationships or your situations, and that there is things you can do to heal. And you can heal, and you do, and you will continue to grow, and you can become more expansive. And there is meaning to life. And when you listen to your intuition and you connect your gut, your heart, and your brain together and follow that through the world, that you can have deeply meaningful and purposeful, and dimensions of life can open up to you. that are beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
And not material dreams, but experiential dreams. And that you can see into past lives, you can connect with ancestors, you can connect with nature, you can connect with your higher self and with spirit. And that there's this rich, beautiful, multidimensional world just at your fingertips. And that's actually what it means to be fully human.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, is just the greatest thing ever.
I couldn't agree more. And it also magnetizes you towards other people who are living this way. And then when you can connect with people on that level, it gave me everything that I'd been longing for with these like surface level friendships that I've had for most of my life, you know, that were either like focused around work or drinking or whatever. And it's like, there's got to be more, right? And then you meet other people who are living life this way. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what have we come here to create, you know, together in co-creation? It's just honest. It is magic, but it's real. Like, and it's something unlocks that feeling that I had when I was in the house and I checked all the lists and I was like, there has to be more. That was my higher self telling me, honey, there's more, right? Like you've just been exploring this one tiny corner of what it is to be human with your 5 senses in the 3D world. There is so much more.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and have that sense, all I would say, and which I say to myself and I would say to anyone, is just keep going. Just keep going. Keep going and know that there is a future you looking back at you right now and it's like, keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going. I love you so much. You're doing so well.
And she's leaving clues for you.
Yeah.
She or he is leaving clues for you.
Is there anything else that you would like to say or share to people that you feel like you haven't been able to get out before we...
What just came to me, I'm assuming this is coming from somewhere else, is this saying, we are just walking each other home. That we haven't gone much into religion, but like anything that was connected to religion for a long time, I completely dismissed. And that saying I probably would have thought was like some like happy clappy Bible something. But what I've realized is the truth of that. And I think that when you start walking life this way, and most of us do find that we've got some heart-led mission to be of service in some way to each other. And we're literally walking each other home to the wholeness of who we are. And each of us comes into contact with the right people, experiences, whatever that we need for that stage of our journey. Like that is just, I think that's the essence of being a human or being in physical form. I think that's why Source created this experience for us. You know? So to me, we are walking each other home, and I'm so grateful to, as I share more openly, which has been a process for me. I was definitely in the spiritual closet for a long time and just doing things kind of behind the scenes. As I share more vulnerably, more messily, more whole self, what it paradoxically does is brings people to you who accept your whole self, right? So before you try to like, okay, this is who they want me to be, let me show up that way. But then you have to stay that person. And so the more messy I get and people are still there for it, I'm like, okay, cool. These are my people. It's amazing. So yeah, I think for me, just on a personal level, yeah, that's been so healing.
So in terms of if there's someone here who is listening to what you're saying and wants to work with you, how would they know that it's the right time? Who are the sort of people that could benefit from reaching out to you, and then how could they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so let me I'm tuning into these people and what they're saying to me. Yeah. So you've been going in the remembering and the forgetting, right? And what that looks like is you probably have had a spiritual awakening, or you're in the midst of it. You've had a dark night of the soul experience. You've gotten to your, there has to be more than this kind of moment. And you know that there are changes that you want to make to bring you into better alignment with your true north, your soul, your cosmic compass, whatever you want to call it, with your wings feeling. And you just want some guidance, help, tools to help you tune into your intuition better, uncover clues that your soul has from other lifetimes, heal those core wounds that are keeping you stuck in loops, and having like a cheerleader and a doula who's going to go, yes, you can do it. This cliff is your cliff, right? Like, and really like coming from a place of lived experience, I can say, I know the fear of it and I know the freedom on the other side of it. So yeah, I would say people who are probably in the midst of life transitions or contemplating those big transitions and wanting to come into more alignment with themselves. Yeah. And so to find me, so it's so funny. I don't know if you caught this when you were talking about your mom and how she's connected to the earth and to the sky, but that is my business name, Earth Sky Activation. And it's the same for me. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about chronicles of the cosmic scavenger hunt. I'll probably post this there. And then also earthskyactivation@gmail.com. Any of those ways people can find me. And even if it's just to have a chat, because to me, this is so much about really resonating with someone. You have to feel safe. Like I won't work. Discernment is such a key part of the journey to me. And I'm really in honor of people's spiritual sovereignty as well. Like I trust that you know what is best for you. I don't have the answers for you. I'm just here to hold up a mirror and give you some nudges and some tools. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say that if people are interested to even just to connect, that's what I would recommend. You can sign up for like a little alignment call and we can see if it works.
Yeah, beautiful. And as someone who's benefited from the work that you've done, I can completely vouch for the power of that and the way you held that space and were very vulnerable and just made it completely okay for people to bring their whole selves and whatever experience they were having. And so I benefited massively from that, and it's helped me. It's been a step in my journey. I'm sure there'll be lots of future situations where we work together or work with you. And so
I sense that too.
Yeah, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have this conversation and to meet you over the last couple of days as well. So thank you for all the work you're doing and for being you.
It's Maureen again. This is my future self coming back through the quantum to provide an update. And if I were going to tell the version of me who originally recorded the podcast with Kian a few months ago what was to come, I don't think I would have believed it. But in some way I was doing that. And we can work in the quantum like this. Our future self can give us clues, and it is so magical because they're perfectly curated for you. So back then, my signature offering, which I've just launched publicly, I sold out half of the spots even before it had launched. It's called the Soul Remembrance Journey, was just a seed, just an acorn at that stage. It was something that was incubating and it wasn't quite ready to be birthed. And I had no idea how magical it would become. So what's happened to bring me there is, first of all, my quantum hypnosis sessions have just exploded in terms of the tools that I'm using in these sessions. It's expanded beyond what I could have imagined at that point. You know, when I learned quantum hypnosis, it was very, here's kind of the process, and I think you have to learn things that way. And they were amazing sessions back then. But as I've learned to trust myself and my intuition more, I bring in all of the tools that are available to me. So now I weave in intuitive energy healing, shamanic medicine, the support of my guides and the guides of the person who is journeying, and they have just become so magical. I pinch myself that this is what I get to do for a job. And after the first group journey that I did with Kian, I've held another one during the Lionsgate portal. And what was so magical about that was that day, and it was also a full moon during the quantum hypnosis journey. Oh, those people, they really got a blast. It dropped in for me that day what my mission was. So I'm really passionate about encouraging people not to wait until they know what their mission is to start living as if they're on mission, because you are. And it's the process of living your life more on purpose that's going to lead you there. For me, my mission dropped in that my mission is to help you remember your mission. How meta is that? When it dropped in, I was like, well, yeah, of course. It felt so obvious at that stage. It was like, I've been planting seeds for myself. I've been chronicling the cosmic scavenger hunt for years. And now I realize it's so that I can shine the light, guide the way, wayfind, way show, doula, those who are ready to remember their mission. So I've actually got another group quantum hypnosis coming up at the end of November. If you're based on the Central Coast or even in Sydney, if you're nearby, Newcastle even, I'll be sharing more information about that soon. And another cool thing that's come around, and this is all woven into the Soul Remembrance journey, which is my signature container. I'll tell you a bit about that in a second. But something that came through was something I'm calling Soul Jam sessions. So these are 75-minute sessions where you bring something that's really on your heart, you're swirling in your head, you need clarity, you need that mirroring reflection of your higher self that sometimes it's hard for you to hear. So you come with your intention, and I bring all of the tools in my toolkit. I bring, my psychic powers, I bring oracle cards, I bring shamanic medicine, I bring energy healing, I bring my coaching, my life coaching background, all of it to bear to help bring clarity, to clear blocks, to heal, to clear density. And by the end, people are leaving saying, oh my gosh, I feel so clear. I feel like someone left me a voice note today saying, this has literally changed my life. And there's nothing more amazing than that in a 75-minute session. So they're pretty powerful. And that has all built its way up into the Soul Remembrance journey, which is, I've been given guidance to extend it from 12 to 16 weeks. It's a one-on-one, completely bespoke container. And to me, what a container means is I hold a space of pure, clear channel source guidance, a frequency that your higher self is wanting to attune to. And we bring in soul jam sessions, quantum hypnosis sessions, and then between the sessions, we're messaging back and forth to help you integrate, to help you interpret the clues that you've received, and to help you take aligned action so that you're not waiting between sessions to figure out what's going to happen. And I just posted about some pretty incredible results that my first Soul Remembrance journey client has seen in just 5 weeks. Honestly, it blew both of our minds. Like, she has gone from very much in the closet spiritually, doubting her gifts, clairvoyance blocked, to she's fully on fire. Like, she's helping me translate my light language. She is so gifted and powerful, and I'm here to just shine the light for her to find her way back home to herself. And so this is for people who are really ready to have a full transformation. Like, hold on tight, because everything your heart has ever desired and more is possible. and we're here to help you remember what your true unique blueprint is. So I'm so super excited about holding space for people. At this stage, I've got space for 2 more people, but if you're interested and I'm full, please reach out and we can do an alignment session, figure out how to work together. We can do a series of soul jam sessions as well. It's just, honestly, it's an absolute dream to be able to serve in this way. This feels like it's only the beginning. I'm still following the clues on the scavenger hunt as I expand out my understanding of what my mission is here. And I recently did a masterclass called Master Your Inner Compass. That's a perfect starting point because the guidance that I'm getting is, as we're transitioning consciousness right now, the most important thing is that we create a sanctuary within ourselves and around ourselves so that we are anchored as the world around us seems chaotic. And so it's coming back home to your own intuition, to the knowing of who you are, your I am. And so if you're interested, that masterclass, which is available on my website, is a great place to start. And yeah, I am so excited to work with those who feel called. If you're ready to remember what your mission is, if you're ready to get clarity about the next steps on your own personal cosmic scavenger hunt, if you just want to have your light reflected back to you, please reach out. I'm so passionate about this work. The best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram or Facebook. I'm at Earth Sky Activation, or you can check out my website, earthskyactivation.com. And if you want to follow along, the Chronicles of the Cosmic Scavenger Hunt is on YouTube. So my channel there is also at Earth Sky Activation. And yeah, I'm just so excited to connect with you. So give me a follow so you can find out what my latest offerings are. I have something brewing that's a little bit of an edge for me. These are transmissions that have been coming through from Ra, from the sun. I'm going to put together a private group to share these with, and there's some really powerful messages for us about the transformation of consciousness that's going on right now. It'll include both light language and English language transmissions. So yeah, please follow along and connect with me. I love talking to people about this stuff. And yeah, if you're in the local area, I'd love to see you at the end of November for the next in-person past life soul journey. So thank you. Thank you, Kian, so much. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you over the last few months.